Gopinath Madan Mohan. Shri Caitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rup Sanatan Bhattaraguna Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raguna Echai Gosai Kori Charana Vandan Jaha Huiti Bignanash Abhishta Puran Echai Gosai Jar Muitar Das Tan Sabara Pararinu Mora Panchagras Tandaracharana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas Janame Janame Hoye Avila Echai Gosai Jabe Braja Koilaba Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Koila Prakash Shri Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Koila Prakash Bolo Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Bolo Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Padi Majjami Aman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Kori Ash Hari Nam Sankirtan Kohe Naro Tamoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Premanande, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki, Shri Harinam Mantra Ki, Shri Harinam Prabhu Ki, Gaur Premanande. Nitai Gaura Haribol, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribol. Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda. Welcome back, everybody. We're continuing our reading of the Sri Caitanya Charitamrita, who were at the Madhya Lila, chapter 4, text 87. Please, if you're online, feel free to stay with us and add comments or questions into the chat box, and we'll be attentive to that. Or if you want to just fly over here and join the Mela, let us know. All the brahmanas present on that occasion were initiated by Sri Madhavendra Puri into the Vaishnava cult, and Madhavendra Puri engaged them in different types of service. Purport: in the scriptures it is stated, Shat karma nipuno vipra mantra tantra visharada. A qualified Brahmin must be expert in the occupational duties of a Brahmana. His duties are mentioned as 6 Brahminical engagements. Patana means that a Brahmana must be conversant with the Vedic scriptures. He must also be able to teach others to study the Vedic literatures. This is Patana. He must also be expert in worshipping different deities and in performing the Vedic rituals, yajna. On account of this yajna, the Brahmana, being the head of society, performs all the Vedic rituals for Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. This is called yajna, assisting others in performing ceremonies. The remaining 2 items are dana and pratigraha. The Brahmana accepts all kinds of contributions, pratigraha, from his followers, namely the Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, but he does not keep all the money. He keeps only as much as required and gives the balance to others in charity, dana. In order for such a qualified Brahmana to worship the deity, he must be a Vaishnava. Thus, the Vaishnava's position is superior to that of the Brahmana. This example given by Madhavendra Puri confirms that even though a Brahmana may be very expert, he cannot become a priest or servitor of the Vishnu Murti unless he is initiated in Vaishnava mantra. After installing the deity of Gopal, Madhavendra Puri initiated all the Brahmanas into Vaishnavism. He then allotted the Brahmanas different types of service to the deity. From 4 in the morning until 10 at night, from Mangalartik to Shayana Artik, there must be at least 5 or 6 Brahmanas to take care of the deity. 6 aratiks are performed in the temple, and food is frequently offered to the deity and the prasadam distributed. This is the method of worshipping the deity according to the rules and regulations set by the predecessors. Our sampradaya belongs to the disciplic succession of Madhavendra Puri, who belonged to the Madhva sampradaya. We are in the disciplic succession of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, who was initiated by Srila Ishvara Puri, a disciple of Madhavendra Puri's. Our sampradaya is therefore called the Madhva Gaudiya sampradaya. As such, we must carefully follow in the footsteps of Sri Madhavendra Puri and observe how he installed the Gopal deity on top of Govardhana hill, how he arranged and performed the Anakut ceremony in only 1 day, and so forth. Our installation of deities in America and in the wealthy countries of Europe should be carried out in terms of Sri Madhavendra Puri's activities. All the servitors of the deity must be strictly qualified as Brahmanas, and specifically must engage in the Vaishnava custom of offering as much prasadam as possible and distributing it to the devotees who visit the temple to see the Lord. After taking rest, the deity must be awakened at the end of the day, and immediately some food and some water must be offered to him. This offering is called Vaikali Bhog, food offered at the end of the day. When it was advertised throughout the country that Lord Gopal had appeared atop Govardhana hill, all the people from neighboring villages came to see the deity. One village after another was pleased to beg Madhavendra Puri to allot them 1 day to perform the Anakut ceremony. Thus, day after day, the Anakut ceremony was performed for some time. Sri Madhavendra Puri did not eat anything throughout the day, but at night, after laying the deity down to rest, he took a milk preparation. The next morning, the rendering of service to the deity began again, and people from one village arrived with all kinds of food grains. The inhabitants of the village brought to the deity of Gopal as much food, grains, ghee, yogurt, and milk as they had in their village. Anna, grita, dari, and dugda are food grains. Ghee, yogurt, and milk. Actually, these are the basis of all food. Vegetables and fruits are subsidiary. Hundreds and thousands of preparations can be made out of grains, vegetables, ghee, milk, and yogurt. The food offered to Gopal in the Anakut ceremony contained only these 5 ingredients. Only demoniac people are attracted to other types of food, which we will not even mention in this connection. We should understand that in order to prepare nutritious food, we require only grains, ghee, yogurt, and milk. We cannot offer anything else to the deity. The Vaishnava, the perfect human being, does not accept anything not offered to the deity. People are often frustrated with national food policies, but from the Vedic scriptures we find that if there are sufficient cows and grains, the entire food problem is solved. The Vaishyas, people engaged in agriculture and commerce, are therefore recommended in the Bhagavad Gita to produce grains and give protection to cows. Cows are the most important animal because they produce the miracle food milk, from which we can prepare ghee and yogurt. The perfection of human civilization depends on Krishna consciousness, which recommends deity worship. Preparations made from vegetable, grains, milk, ghee, and yogurt are offered to the deity and then distributed. Here we can see the difference between the East and the West. The people who came to see the deity of Gopal brought all kinds of food to offer the deity. They brought all the food they had in stock, and they came before the deity not only to accept prasadam for themselves, but to distribute it to others. The Krishna consciousness movement vigorously approves this practice of preparing food, offering it to the deity and distributing it to the general population. This activity should be extended universally to stop sinful eating habits as well as other behavior befitting only demons. A demoniac civilization will never bring peace within the world. Since eating is the first necessity in human society, those engaged in solving the problems of preparing and distributing food should take lessons from Madhavendra Puri and execute the Anakut ceremony. When the people take to eating only prasadam offered to the deity, all the demons will be turned into Vaishnavas. When the people are Krishna conscious, naturally the government will be also. A Krishna conscious man is always a very liberal well-wisher of everyone. When such men head the government, the people will certainly be sinless. They will no longer be disturbing demons. It is then and then only that a peaceful condition can prevail in society. Going back to somebody's question yesterday about taking prasadam, the benefit people get even if they don't know what it is, and what we've heard today about how it changes the quality. You can't tell by looking necessarily, but it has transcendental qualities that uplift people. And Prabhupada advocates for this throughout his purports. In Kali Yuga, it's vital to have mass distribution of prasadam to elevate the public. So it's a worthy cause. And I wanted to also comment about Prabhupada saying twice in this purport, it should take only that which is offered to the deity. Another controversy that arose circa 1972 out of San Francisco that had the first traveling Sankirtan parties. The devotees there had gotten a traveling vehicle and loaded the devotees into it, and they started driving to different townships and staying overnight. That hadn't been done before. Devotees all stayed in the temple. We go out from there as the nucleus for all the activities. So that meant that they didn't have deity prasadam. And this was a conundrum for some because some claimed that this was not authorized His devotees had to take some prasadam, so they would buy things and then offer them on the road in whatever way they could. So controversy. Where would one go to adjudicate this? To Prabhupada. Prabhupada was in Los Angeles, so two devotees went there. One of them was named Keshava, the other was Bhutatma. Bhutatma was my temple president when I first joined. Keshava was the brother. He passed. Keshava passed a few years ago. Of Karandar. They're famous devotee brothers in the early days of ISKCON. Still famous. And they went and asked Prabhupada, and they gave their eyewitness report back about what Prabhupada said. They told him the controversy. And Prabhupada said, so they are traveling and they're doing Sankirtan? And they said, Prabhupada did this. He said, when Sankirtan? They were out distributing books. He said, this, so they're doing Sankirtan? And they said, yes. And Prabhupada said, they can eat any old damn thing. And he also indicated that the books are deities, they could offer the bhoga to the books because they were deities. That was a compensation that we had heard of before, because Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, as reported by Srila Prabhupada, had encouraged his preachers to go out even on Ekadashi when most people were fasting. And one of his best preachers was to go to a program but wasn't feeling well enough to go while fasting. And there was no special arrangements for Ekadashi Prasadam at that time. There was just whatever was offered, or you were just totally fasting. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta ordered his disciple, whom he was sending out to preach, that he should take the Mahaprasadam. Prabhupada mentions that in a purport, and he's talked about it before, because the principle was that the preaching should go on. And so these are subtleties, but they're really important, because we could read this purport and then say, okay, everyone can only eat prasadam from the deity, which is a great idea, but if there's a higher principle, we should know about it also. Om Tat Sat. The next day, almost as before, there was an Anakut ceremony. All the Brahmanas prepared foods and Gopal accepted them. The ideal place to execute Krishna consciousness is Vrajabhumi, or Vrindavan, where the people are naturally inclined to love Krishna, and Krishna is naturally inclined to love them. In the Bhagavad Gita 4.11, it is said, Yayata mam prapadyante tamstataiva bhajamyaham. There is a responsive cooperation between the Supreme Lord Krishna and his devotees. The more a devotee sincerely loves Krishna, the more Krishna reciprocates. So much so that a highly advanced devotee can talk with Krishna face to face. Krishna confirms this in the Bhagavad Gita 10.10. Tesham satata yukta anam vajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. The actual mission of human life is to understand Krishna and return home back to Godhead. Therefore, one who is sincerely engaged in the service of the Lord with love and faith can talk with Krishna and receive instructions by which he can speedily return home back to Godhead. Today, many scholars defend the science of religion, and they have some conception of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but religion without practical experience of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is no religion at all. Srimad Bhagavatam describes this as a form of cheating. Religion means abiding by the orders of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one is not qualified to talk with him and take lessons from him, how can one understand the principles of religion? Thus, talks of religion or religious experience without Krishna consciousness are a useless waste of time. Throngs of people came from different villages to see the deity of Gopal, and they took Mahaprasadam sumptuously. When they saw the super excellent form of Lord Gopal, all their lamentation and unhappiness disappeared. All the villages in neighboring Vrajabhumi, Vrindavan, became aware of the appearance of Gopal, and all the people from these villages came to see him. Day after day, they all performed the Anakut ceremony. In this way, not only neighboring villages, but all the other provinces came to know of Gopal's appearance. Thus people came from all over, bringing a variety of presentations. The people of Mathura, who are very big capitalists, also brought various presentations and offered them before the deity in devotional service. Thus countless presentations of gold, silver, garments, scented articles, and eatables arrived. The store of Gopal increased daily. One very rich Kshatriya of the royal order constructed a temple. Someone made cooking utensils, and someone constructed boundary walls. Each and every family residing in the land of Rajabhumi contributed one cow. In this way, thousands of cows became the property of Gopal. Purport: this is the way to install the deity. Construct the temple and increase the property of the temple. Everyone should be enthusiastic to contribute to the construction of the temple for the deity. Amrita Sagar, note this purport. And everyone should also contribute food for the distribution of prasadam. The devotees should preach the gospel of devotional service and thus engage people in practical service to the deity. Wealthy people can also be attracted to take part in these activities. In this way, everyone will become spiritually inclined, and the entire society will be converted to Krishna consciousness. The desire to satisfy the material senses will automatically diminish, and the senses will become so purified that they will be able to engage in bhakti, devotional service to the Lord. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchite. By serving the Lord, one's senses are gradually purified. The engagement of one's purified senses in the service of Lord Rishikesh is called bhakti. When the dormant propensity for bhakti is awakened, one can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead as He is. Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavan yashasmi tatvataha. This is the process of giving humanity the chance to awaken Krishna consciousness. Thus people can perfect their lives in all respects. Going back to your question, you brought up Ekachakra Pranprabhu and that niche of a discussion we had about which books to read and when and so forth. There's a verse in the 11th canto where Krishna is talking to Uddhava, and he says that sometimes those who live by the Ganges, they go elsewhere to take bath because they say, well, it's just the Ganges. I'll go find some other river and plunge there. And so one of Prabhupada's points with the Gopi Baba Club, who reads Bhagavad Gita? So people skip over that. It's so deep that those who are advanced in devotional service see Krishna in every page and every verse and commune with Him through the Bhagavad Gita. What to speak of Srimad Bhagavatam and Caitanya Charitamrita. So the idea of specialization or being very focused and going deeply into literatures and not thinking them suddenly to be commonplace, that, it's just the Bhagavad Gita. We should go to some other book off the shelf, some other variety we need to taste, because otherwise we won't attain this position. Prabhu brought that point up in his class today, but it's about being aware of the mood of service that is given through our sampradaya and how we should approach these literatures. 103. Eventually 2 brahmanas in the renounced order arrived from Bengal, and Madhavendra Puri, who liked them very much, kept them in Vrindavan and gave them all kinds of comforts. These 2 were then initiated by Madhavendra Puri, and he entrusted them with the daily service of the Lord. This service was performed continuously, and the worship of the deity became very gorgeous. Thus Madhavendra Puri was very pleased. The 6 Goswamis and their followers started many temples, such as the temples of Govinda, Gopinath, Madan Mohan, Radha Damodar, Shyamasundar, Radha Raman, and Gokulananda. Which temples did they start? Govinda, Gopinath, Madan Mohan, Radha Damodar, Shyamasundar, Radha Ramana, and Gokulananda. The disciples of the Goswamis were entrusted with the Seva Puja, deity worship of these temples. It was not that the disciples were family members of the original Goswamis. All the Goswamis were in the renounced order of life, and Jiva Goswami in particular was a lifelong brahmachari. At present, Sevaitas assume the title of Goswami on the basis of their being engaged as Sevaitas of the deities. The Sevaitas who have inherited their positions now assume proprietorship of the temples, and some of them are selling the deity's property as if it were their own. However, the temples did not originally belong to these Sevaitas. 105. In this way, the deity worship in the temple was very gorgeously performed for 2 years. Then one day, Madhavendra Puri had a dream. In his dream, Madhavendra Puri saw Gopal, who said, "My bodily temperature still has not decreased. Please bring sandalwood from the Malaya province and smear the pulp over my body to cool me." Purport: the deity of Gopal had been buried within the jungle for many years, and although he was installed and was offered thousands of pots of water, he still felt very hot. He therefore asked Madhavendra Puri to bring sandalwood from the Malaya province. Sandalwood produced in Malaya is very popular. That province is situated on the western Ghat, and the hill Nilagiri is sometimes known as Malaya Hill. The word Malaya Ja is used to indicate the sandalwood produced in Malaya province. Sometimes the word Malaya refers to the modern country of Malaysia. Formerly, this country also produced sandalwood, but now they have found it profitable to produce rubber trees. Although the Vedic culture was once prevalent in Malaysia, now all the inhabitants are Muslims. The Vedic culture is now lost in Malaysia, Java, and Indonesia. Bring sandalwood pulp from Jagannath Puri. Kindly go quickly, since no one else can do it. You must. After having this dream, Madhavendra Puri Goswami became very glad due to ecstasy of love of Godhead, and in order to execute the command of the Lord, he started east toward Bengal. Before leaving, Madhavendra Puri made all arrangements for regular deity worship, and he engaged different people in various duties. Then, taking up the order of Gopal, he started for Bengal. When Madhavendra Puri arrived at the house of Advaita Acharya in Shantipur, the Acharya became very pleased upon seeing the ecstatic love of Godhead manifest in Madhavendra Puri. Advaita Acharya begged to be initiated by Madhavendra Puri. After initiating him, Madhavendra Puri started for South India. There's a little shrine there in Shantipur. When you go to Shantipur and you walk to the back of the property, there's a place there that commemorates Advaita Acharya meeting Madhavendra Puri and getting initiated there. Advaita Acharya begged to be... Okay. There's a purport. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments on Advaita Acharya's initiation by Madhavendra Puri, who is a sannyasi in the disciplic succession of the Madhva Sampradaya. According to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, Kiba Vipra Kiba Nyasi Shudra Kene Nai Jai Krishna Tattva Veta She Guru Hai. A person may be a brahmana, a sannyasi, a shudra, or whatever, but if he is well conversant in the science of Krishna, he can become a guru. C.C. Madhya 8.128. This statement is supported by Sri Madhavendra Puri. According to the Pancharatra injunction, only a householder brahmana can initiate. Others cannot. When a person is initiated, it is assumed that he has become a brahmana. Without being initiated by a proper brahmana, one cannot be converted into a brahmana. In other words, unless one is a brahmana, he cannot make another a brahmana. A Grihastha Brahmana partaking of the Varnashrama Dharma institution can secure various types of paraphernalia to worship Lord Vishnu through his honest labor. Actually, people beg to be initiated by these householder Brahmanas just to become successful in the Varnashrama institution or to become free from material desires. It is therefore necessary for a spiritual master in the Grihastha ashrama to be a strict Vaishnava. A spiritual master from the sannyas order has very little opportunity to perform archan, deity worship, but when one accepts a spiritual master from the transcendental sannyasis, the principle of deity worship is not at all neglected. To implement this conclusion, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu gave us his opinion in the verse Kiva Vipra Kiva Nyasi, etc. This indicates that the Lord understood the weakness of society in its maintaining that only a Grihastha Brahmana should be a spiritual master. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu indicated that it does not matter whether the spiritual master is a Grihastha householder, a sannyasi, or even a Shudra. A spiritual master simply must be conversant in the science of the Shastra. He must understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only then can one become a spiritual master. Diksha actually means initiating a disciple with transcendental knowledge by which he becomes freed from all material contamination. Reflections, questions? Looking to the outside people's party. There's a hand up. It looks like Devavrata, although I can't be absolutely sure.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. I wanted to clarify a little bit on the explanation which you were giving of Srila Prabhupada giving sanction to traveling Sankirtan devotees for the prasadam which they cook and offer. Srila Prabhupada in one instance was given bread which was from a store, and when he took it, he took a nap and he got up and he said, "Don't ever give me that again, it gave me a bad dream." And there's also this verse in the Caitanya Charitamrita which speaks about if one takes grains specifically which are cooked by non-devotees, it makes the mind wicked and one is unable to remember Krishna. So what's the line which devotees need to draw when it comes to specifically grains being cooked by non-devotees? Because sometimes I notice, in the sake of convenience, it's possible that one could make a compromise and it could potentially compromise their Krishna consciousness.
Don't eat bread. Yeah. Although Prabhupada said to those devotees, and I repeated it verbatim, and I asked him 3 times, did he really say that? And they said yes. Any old damn thing. We also have to understand the spirit of that. As Prabhupada was emphasizing the importance of preaching by his enthusiastic statement. He wasn't advocating for eating donuts and bread. So we should be as selective as possible because there is a transference. Prabhupada did tell Brahmananda, and this is on the record, it's also recorded, that when you pay for food outside, then it neutralizes the karma. But it doesn't mean that there's not some residual effect. But he said when you pay for something, and Brahmananda told me this personally as well, that's also on the record. If you pay for something, in other words, you buy it, you paid the money for it, it neutralizes the karma. It doesn't make it prasadam, it doesn't make it the best thing to eat, but that's there. It has to be mentioned. I have to mention it because it's a thing, Prabhupada said. Just giving the nuances. But being careful about the kinds of things when we're on the road is part of what we discussed the other day about being aware of the fact that we're influenced by our environment, and part of that is what we eat, or it's a large part of it. So we should be careful and try to get the things that are not affected by, I'll rephrase, get things that are less processed and not cooked grains. What a grain is a whole other controversial issue. It's just mentioned in the Shastra, Anna. Anna means food, really. But everybody has a different idea about what a grain is. Just ask Anakadashi to 5 different Gaudiya mats and find out what's okay to eat and what's not to eat. But one should use common sense as much as possible. If there's a kind of attraction to a certain type of food cooked by people who are not devotees, it's a warning sign. You should try to buy as innocent as foods as possible and then offer those to Krishna. There may be rare circumstances where somebody's on the run and they have to take something, then it's not the end of the world and they're not going to be cast into hell. But we should be really careful. Better to keep a higher standard and plan ahead. I can't tell if you're satisfied yet because you're way back there.
Yes.
Okay. Achintya Caitanya Prabhu has a point, and then we have Kana Gopal. Okay, then we have Madhya.
After Srila Prabhupada initiated the first set of disciples, then he put a notice on the window, in the glass window, where what they're expected to follow. And one of the things he mentions there is that avoid food cooked by non-devotees. Just remembered that one.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Just a supplementary point about the glories of prasad distribution in the Annakuta festival. I have in this purport to the 4th canto, chapter 9, verse 24, Srila Prabhupada writes that in this age the distribution of prasad has replaced the distribution of money. No one has sufficient money to distribute, but if we distribute Krishna prasad as far as possible, this is more valuable than the distribution of money. And clearly that was shown in this example, how all the villagers, they give what they could. They had so many grains, milk products, and they gave it all of it, and in that way it multiplied by Gopal's mercy.
Nice. Madhav.
Krishna. In text
I see you,
100,
Mukhodabin. Go ahead, Madhav.
in text 106, it says, "Please bring sandalwood from the Malaya province," and then Prabhupada describes that sometimes Malaya refers to Malaysia. And then in the next text he says, "Please bring sandalwood from Jagannath Puri." So, but they're 2 different places, right? Or it's like, I didn't understand.
Well, the Malaya province, this province is situated in the Western Ghat and the hill Nilagiri, as sometimes known as Malaya Hill. So if you can find out where the Western Ghat is and Nilagiri, that could indicate that it was in that area of Jagannath Puri, so it's synonymous with saying he went to that area to collect it. Which makes sense because he was coming back then, and that's where the Gopal deity was, in Ramuna. Okay, we have Mukharavind. We have a couple from the Outside People's Party. Go ahead, and then we'll come back to Mathura Kripa.
Maharaj, I have one reflection and one question.
Oh, we can't hear him.
One reflection and one question. Reflection is that one thing I noticed that when the Brahmanas came from the Bengal and Madhvenpuri, is particularly mentioned that Madhvenpuri liked them very much, kept them in Vrindavan and gave them all kind of comforts. So I see that how he nicely treated the Brahmanas, like those who came to serve. There is a principle of taking care of the people, not just burn them in hell and do so. I found that phrase very appropriate. And also notice that how he himself personally went to go all the way from the Vrindavan to the Jagannath Puri travel. He could have appointed some other in the modern day, sometime when we get service, okay, let's give the other people the hard part. But here I see that Madhya Puri himself took the that hard part to travel rather than just giving. He has thousands of people, he could have given to anyone, but he took himself. And the question I have is in the verse number 95. I could not understand what does Prabhupada means. If one is not qualified to talk with him and take lessons from him, H is capital, how can one understand the principle of religion? The talk of religion or religious experience without Krishna consciousness are a useless waste of time. If you can, the last.
Well, it's along the same lines as something Radhika Raman says, that if you have a highfalutin philosophy but there's no access to it from the common person on the street, then what's the use of the philosophy? It has to be available to everybody. And Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Raja Vijja Raja Kuyam Pavitramidam Uttamam Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam Susukam Kartamavyam. That yes, this is the king of religion and all philosophies, but it's pratyaksha. You can experience it directly. How? Because Bhakti Parishanu Bhava Virakti Anyata Traishatrika Eka Kala Prapadya Manase Yatashantastus Tushti Pushti Shura Payonagasam. Havikavi Yogendra says that it's just like eating food. You get happiness, nourishment, and your hunger goes away with every morsel that you eat. And in the same way, when you take the practice of devotional service, Navalakshana Bhakti, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyatma Atma Nivedanam, then you get three things, just like you get three things when you eat. First thing is bhakti. Then naturally comes out, that it's there within the soul anyway. And then Parishanubhava. Anubhava means that you see Krishna for yourself directly. There's no, you can perceive that he's revealing himself to you. And then Anubhava Anyatracha Trika Ekakala. Then Bhakti Parishanubhava Virakti. Virakti means then you get detachment from all other things. So it's directly perceived, and that's why Prabhupada quotes the famous verse 10:10, because that indicates Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi Yoga means that you're hearing directly from Krishna within the heart. Of course, it has to be confirmed by Guru Sadhu Shastra, and one shouldn't claim that I know better than the previous acharyas, then one's so-called revelation would be nullified. But it's direct, pratyakshaavagamam.
Thank you.
Do you want to pass the microphone to your neighbor?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
So it seems so many of our acharyas have so many realizations and instructions via the medium of dreams. Even Ayendra Prabhu had dreams of instructions from Srila Prabhupada. What is the fine line of a dream being bona fide versus mental concoction or speculation?
Well, in general, we follow the process of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So if we get some inspiration, devotees are careful to vet that realization and not claim that they're independent of Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So in a practical way, whenever we have some inspiration, we should vet it by asking advanced devotees. Ask your spiritual master, ask those who are well established in devotional service, and ask them for shastric reference for your idea. Best to vet those types of things. Okay, and we have one inside. Somebody had their hand up. Oh yeah, Mathura Kripa, half an hour ago.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. I noticed by standing on the roof of the building that on top of Govardhana Hill there's what looks like the relics of a temple, old temple. Is that in any way connected to this pastime of Gopal?
Yes.
Is that because at some point here it says that they erected a temple? Is that the temple?
Yes. And there's another one on another part of Govardhana Hill as well, but the deity has been since moved. and is worshipped in Dwarka. Where? Natwar. Sorry. But we don't go on the hill. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu set that standard. Okay, that's it? Chintamani, yes.
I have 3 reflections from our online audience.
Oh, sorry, I thought it was Nam Chintamani. Go ahead. I can't see very well.
So, first one is from Rasayana Katha Prabhu. He's offering his obeisances to you, Maharaj, and to all the assembled Vaishnavas. And he's very happy with the readings. And the next one is from Sri Antariksha Prabhu.
Haribo.
He's saying, please accept my respectful obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for the constant nectar. And he has a question. What is the significance of Madhavendrapuri temple near Govindakund?
The significance of the Madhavendrapuri temple near Govardhana?
Govindakund.
In Govindakund. Well, it's where Madhavendrapuri apparently sat for his bhajan, and then Krishna came. They made a little shrine there because that was the estimated place. However, it was estimated by Bava that he sat there, so they immemorialized it by making a place. So we generally go there on our Govardhana Puja. We stop there. We found a really nice place that has a roof over it, and it's a little bit fortified from the monkeys because it's really intense over there with the monkeys. And we have a program there, and that's right next to the place where Madhavendra sat and had his dream.
Next one is from Vaikuntanayak Prabhu.
Vaikuntanayak?
Yes.
Okay.
I think you have touched upon his question a little earlier, but I will read it anyway. Is the Gopal deity that Sri Madhavendra installed same as the Srinath Ji, who is Natadwar in Rajasthan? And he also had another comment. There is Nilagiri Hills in South India near Mysore.
There's what?
Nilgiri Hills in South India near Mysore.
It's also Nilagiri Dairy or something, right?
That place is famous for sandalwood. There is even a very famous sandalwood smuggler who was eventually shot dead by the government. For many years he was smuggling sandalwood from there. Very popular in South India. So that area is known for sandalwood trees.
I see. Was that a question? Or was he just giving an indication that was another place that Madhavendra might have gone?
I think his question is mostly about if the Srinathji is the same as the Gopal deity that Sri Madhavendra has installed.
Yes. Okay, we have a few more minutes. There's no more immediate questions.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
When I try to cook at home, I think about what is healthy for me and my family and then offer that to Krishna. So how can I switch that consciousness to what Krishna likes and then take that as a prasadam and give that prasadam for everybody in the family?
In the Pancharatric system of deity worship, there's 2 standards. One is the standard for temple worship, and the other standard is the standard for home worship of the deity. And generally, and they're very different. At the temple, one should worship Krishna like a king, and every specific should be observed, and one should have ever-increasing opulence for the deity. At home, the standard is not as strict in the Pancharatric system because families do have to eat. If you just eat all halava and white puris for every meal, or if that's what you feed your kid. Because that's like, okay, you make 6 kinds of milk sweets and here's your breakfast. You better have medical insurance because there's going to be diabetes or something like that. So eating what's healthy at home, obviously it should be of the highest quality and should be sattva, but it can be simple and healthy that you offer to the deity. And Prabhupada gave various concessions in other countries as well about different kinds of cuisine. Prabhupada was accommodating because people had their natures. And in general, so just the main point is temple worship is very exacting and should be specifically the kinds of things Krishna likes, with some few exceptions. For festivals, cooking for devotees and things like that. But then for the Rajbhog and things like that, those should be standards. At home, one can feed one's family according to what's most needed for their health. And according to the home standard of deity worship, Krishna accepts that. That also goes for the schedule. The schedule at the temple, you have to be exacting. The artik starts a certain time, the offerings there, and so forth. If you do that at home, good luck, especially nowadays. Very difficult. So you do the best you can for the timings and so forth. If you have kids and you tell them that you can't eat until later because we haven't made an offering yet, and an offering time isn't coming for a little while, you're going to have a lot of problems. So you have to be a little more flexible. Okay, we'll read a couple more verses.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for such a practical and important question. Okay. Going into South India, Vaikuntanayaka, Sri Madhavendra Puri visited Ramuna, where Gopinath is situated. Well, Ramuna is not in South India. Yeah?
Not technically.
Okay, going in a southern direction. Upon seeing the beauty of the deity, Madhavendra Puri was overwhelmed. In the corridor of the temple from which people generally viewed the deity, Madhavendra Puri chanted and danced. Then he sat down there and asked a brahmana what kinds of food they offered to the deity. From the excellence of the arrangements, Madhavendra Puri understood by deduction that only the best food was offered. Madhavendra Puri thought, I shall inquire from the priest what foods are offered to Gopinath, so that by making arrangements in our kitchen, we can offer similar foods to Sri Gopal. When the Brahmin priest was questioned about this matter, he explained in detail what kinds of foods were offered to the deity of Gopinath. The Brahmana priest said, in the evening, the deity is offered sweet rice, in 12 earthen pots. Because the taste is as good as nectar, Amrita, it is named Amrita Keli. This sweet rice is celebrated throughout the world as Gopinath Shir. It is not offered anywhere else in the world. While Madhavendra Puri was talking with the Brahmana priest, the sweet rice was placed before the deity as an offering. Hearing this, Madhavendra Puri thought as follows: if, without my asking, a little sweet rice is given to me, I can then taste it and make a similar preparation to offer to my Lord Gopal. Madhavendra Puri became greatly ashamed when he desired to taste the sweet rice, and he immediately began to think of Lord Vishnu. While he was thus thinking of Lord Vishnu, the offering was completed, and the artik ceremony began. After the artik was finished, Madhavendra Puri offered his obeisances to the deity, and then left the temple. He did not say anything more to anyone. Sri Madhavendra Puri avoided begging. He was completely unattached and indifferent to material things. If, without his begging, someone offered him some food, he would eat. Otherwise, he would fast. Purport: this is the Paramahamsa stage, the highest stage for a sannyasi. A sannyasi can beg from door to door just to collect food, but a Paramahamsa has taken a yachita vritti, or ajagara vritti, does not ask anyone for food. If someone offers him food voluntarily, he eats. Ayachita vritti means being accustomed to refrain from begging. And ajagara vritti indicates one who is compared to a python, the big snake that makes no effort to acquire food, but rather allows food to come automatically within its mouth. In other words, a Paramahamsa simply engages exclusively in the service of the Lord without caring even for eating or sleeping. It was stated about the 6 Goswamis, Nidrahara Viharakari Vijato. In the Paramahamsa stage, one conquers the desire for sleep, food, and sense gratification. One remains a humble, meek mendicant engaged in the service of the Lord day and night. Madhavendra Puri had attained this Paramahamsa stage. A Paramahamsa like Madhavendra Puri is always satisfied in the loving service of the Lord. Material hunger and thirst cannot impede his activities. When he desired to taste a little sweet rice offered to the deity, he considered that he had committed an offense by desiring to eat what was being offered to the deity. Purport: it is advisable that food being offered to the deity be covered when taken from the kitchen to the deity room, and that way others may not see it. Those who are not accustomed to following the advanced regulative devotional principles may desire to eat the food, and that is an offense. Therefore, no one should be given a chance to even see it. However, when it is brought before the deity, it must be uncovered. Seeing the food uncovered before the deity, Madhavendra Puri desired to taste a little of it so that he could prepare a similar sweet rice for his Gopal. Madhavendra Puri was so strict, however, that he considered this to be an offense. Consequently, he left the temple without saying anything to anyone. The Paramahamsa is therefore called Vijita Shadguna. He must conquer the 6 material qualities, Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moha, Matsarya, and Shuddha Trishna, lust, anger, greed, illusion, enviousness, and hunger and thirst. Madhavendra Puri left the temple and sat down in the village marketplace, which was vacant. Sitting there, he began to chant. In the meantime, the temple priest laid the deity down to rest. Purport: although Madhavendra Puri was not interested in eating and sleeping, his interest in chanting the Mahamantra was as acute as if he were an aspiring transcendentalist rather than a Paramahamsa. This means that even in the Paramahamsa stage, one cannot give up chanting. Haridas Thakur and the Goswamis were all engaged in chanting a fixed number of rounds. Therefore, chanting on beads is very important for everyone, even though one may become a Paramahamsa. This chanting can be executed anywhere, either inside or outside the temple. Madhavendra Puri sat down in a vacant marketplace to perform his chanting. As stated by Srinivasacharya in his prayers to the Goswamis, Namagana Natibi, a Paramahamsa devotee is always engaged in chanting and rendering loving service to the Lord. Chanting the Lord's holy names and engaging in his service are identical. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.23, there are 9 kinds of devotional service: hearing, Shravanam; chanting, Kirtanam; remembering, Vishnu Smaranam; serving, Padasevanam; worship of the deity, Archanam; praying, Vandanam; carrying out orders, Dasyam; serving him as a friend, Sakyam; and sacrificing everything for the Lord, Atma Nivedanam. Although each process appears distinct, when one is situated on the absolute platform, he can see that they are identical. For instance, hearing is as good as chanting, and remembering is as good as chanting or hearing. Similarly, engaging in deity worship is as good as chanting, hearing, or remembering. The devotee is expected to accept all 9 processes of devotional service, but even if only one process is properly executed, he can still attain the highest position, Paramahamsa, and go back home, back to Godhead. Finishing his daily duties, the priest went to take rest. In a dream, he saw the Gopinath deity come to talk to him, and he spoke as follows. O priest, please get up and open the door of the temple. I have kept one pot of sweet rice for the sannyasi, Madhavendra Puri. This pot of sweet rice is just behind my cloth curtain. You did not see it because of my tricks. A sannyasi named Madhavendra Puri is sitting in the vacant marketplace. Please take this pot of sweet rice from behind me and deliver it to him. Awakening from the dream, the priest immediately rose from bed and thought it wise to take a bath before entering the deity's room. He then opened the temple door. According to the deity's directions, the priest found the pot of sweet rice behind the cloth curtain. He removed the pot and mopped up the place where it had been kept. He then went out of the temple. Closing the door of the temple, he went to the village with the pot of sweet rice. He called out in every stall in search of Madhavendra Puri. Holding the pot of sweet rice, the priest called, "Will he whose name is Madhavendra Puri please come and take this pot? Gopinath has stolen this pot of sweet rice for you." Purport: the difference between the absolute truth and relative truth is explained here. The Lord Gopinath has openly declared herein that he is a thief. He had stolen the pot of sweet rice, and this was not kept a secret because his act of stealing is a source of great transcendental bliss. In the material world, theft is criminal, but in the spiritual world, the Lord's stealing is a source of transcendental bliss. Mundane rascals who cannot understand the absolute nature of the personality of Godhead sometimes call Lord Sri Krishna immoral, but they do not know that his seemingly immoral activities, which are not kept secret, afford pleasure to the devotees. Not understanding the transcendental behavior of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, these rascals slur his character and immediately fall into the category of miscreants, rascals, lowest among men, demons, and those whose knowledge is taken away by the illusory energy. Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita 7.15, Namam duskritinu mudha prapadyante naradama maya ya pritagyana asuram bhavamashita. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, who are lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Mundane rascals cannot understand that whatever Krishna does, being absolute in nature, is all good. This quality of the Lord is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 10:33-29. One may consider certain acts of a supremely powerful person to be immoral by mundane calculations, but this is not actually the case. For example, the sun absorbs water from the surface of the earth, but it does not absorb water only from the sea. It also absorbs water from filthy sewers and ditches containing urine and other impure substances. The sun is not polluted by absorbing such water. Rather, the sun makes the filthy place pure. If a devotee approaches the Supreme Personality of Godhead for an immoral or improper purpose, he nonetheless becomes purified. The Lord does not become infected. In Srimad Bhagavatam 10:29-15, it is stated that if one approaches the Supreme Lord even out of lust, anger, or fear, kamam, krodam, bhayam, sneham, he is purified. The gopis, being young girls, approached Krishna because he was a beautiful young boy. From the external point of view, they approached the Lord out of lust, and the Lord danced with them at midnight. From the mundane point of view, these activities may appear immoral because a married or unmarried young girl cannot leave home to mix with a young boy and dance with him. Although this is immoral from the mundane viewpoint, the activities of the gopis are accepted as the highest form of worship because it was Lord Krishna whom they approached with lusty desires in the dead of night. But these things cannot be understood by non-devotees. One must understand Krishna in tattva, truth. One should use his common sense and consider that if simply by chanting Krishna's holy name one is purified, how then can the person Krishna be immoral? Unfortunately, mundane fools are accepted as educational leaders and are offered exalted posts for teaching irreligious principles to the general populace. This is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 7.531. Andayatandar upaniyamana. Blind men are trying to lead other blind men. Due to the immature understanding of such rascals, common men should not discuss Krishna's pastimes with the gopis. A non-devotee should not even discuss his stealing sweet rice for his devotees. He is warned that one should not even think about these things. Although Krishna is the purest of the pure, mundane people thinking of Krishna's pastimes that appear immoral themselves become polluted. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu therefore never publicly discussed Krishna's dealings with the gopis. He used to discuss these dealings only with 3 confidential friends. He never discussed Rasa Lila publicly, as the professional reciters do, although they do not understand Krishna or the nature of the audience. However, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu encouraged the public chanting of the holy name on a huge scale for as many hours as possible, at least 3. That brings us to the end of this morning's reading, a lively session, and now it's time to take a break for lunch. So we'll resume the reading at 4 p.m. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Lakshman Shringadev, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram, Shri Shri Gaurnitai, Shri Shri Radhe Sham. If you so desire, please empower us to understand Vaishnava etiquette. Please empower us to distribute the holy names in prasadam so that the masses of people in the world can be benefited. And please give us a taste for hearing these pastimes again and again so that they may replace any other samskars we've accumulated in the material world since time immemorial. Thank you for considering our request. Everyone agrees with these prayers in whole or in part. Please unmute and say Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanande. Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Vanchakopadrisha Kripasinabhevacha Patitanam Bhavanivyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha Nanta Gori Vaishnavini Ki Jai.